Good morning, everybody, to panel 2. Thank you all for being here. My name is Stephen Day. I'm the ADR
Student Radio Network.
Department Chair, Advisor, Teacher. And I'd like to introduce this morning our next panel. It's called Monitizing Your Talent. They will explain what we mean by that. But it's basically, the log line is taking your talent and finding a way to have a career. So, jobs. First of all, I'd like to introduce to you Paul Camp. He's our moderator, and he's with IBS and Backbone Networks. Actually, Backbone is the network that we, ADR, use to be able to broadcast. Then we've got over here Gina Gallo. You might remember from the last panel if you were here, and also Mimi Maynard. They're both with Illuminati Pictures. They're going to introduce themselves, so I'll just be very brief. Cameron is with a really interesting company that he'll explain more about. I don't want to steal your thunder. Chris Aiken just joined us. He's a musician, and Karamo is with us from MTV. So I'll let them do the work, and Paul will take it away. Thank you all.
Okay, just real quickly, this topic, there are many different ways to produce revenue from your talent. We will review some of these ways, but also a bit about promotion that enables the revenue to flow in your direction. There's some ways to go out there free and turn that into money later. So what I'd like to do is have each of the panelists introduce themselves, take about 2 minutes on who you are, what you do, what your slant on the monetizing your talent is, and you're Mimi, right?
I'm Mimi.
Okay.
Right here.
Excellent.
Okay, I'm Mimi Maynard. I started out in the acting industry. I was an actress 25, 30 years. I still do voiceover work. I don't do on-camera work anymore. I transitioned into producing. I had a great opportunity in 1994 to travel the world, actually, and become a producer and development person for writer-directors. And I had no background in that whatsoever. I was an actress, but I had been a writer's daughter. Did that, and then formed my own company for 3 years. That went away. It was a management production company, and transitioned into Gina, my partner sitting next to me. Worked with each other on an actress editor level, and many years later we lost contact and then regained contact, and we formed this fantastic company called Illuminati Pictures. We fell into 3D animation. We cast, we create, we produce, we voice direct. The three of us, there's 3 partners here. We work with a company in Brussels. I'm trying to do this very fast. And I attribute all of where I am today with the background that I had, that I started with, which is acting. And I think that no matter what you do, you have to take whatever talents you have, not just one, and you kind of get out there and you see what happens in your life. It's very, very important that you do more than one thing. I'm a big believer, as I said before, in networking, and you never know where you're going to end up. And you have to make sure that you constantly are in contact with people, and you constantly grow within the craft that you decided to participate in. And I really think that if I didn't have my background, I would never have fallen into producing. I would never have fallen into casting, voice directing. It's because I started with one thing and I just let it ride. And I think it's very, very important to do more than one thing, because you never know where you're going to end up. So that's my 2.5 minutes. Boy, that was.
Hi, I'm Gina Gallo. I started off apprenticing for film editors. As I told everyone, I scrubbed toilets at Canon Films. Whatever I could do to get a job, I did. And that translates many years later from the really pieces of poop live action movies I got to work on. I had an opportunity to work at Disney as a first assistant editor, and I jumped at it, and I'm so happy I did, because that just sort of translated from working at Disney, then going over to DreamWorks, and I got laid off at DreamWorks, had a big pity party for about a week, and then I said, you know what, I don't know if I want to do editing anymore. I'd really love to produce. I've got some ideas. I think there's more I can do, more I can offer to animation that I wasn't really happy with what the studios were doing. Fortunately, I joined forces with Mimi, who brought her talents to the table, with Dominic Paris, who brought his background writing, creative talents to the table. And we formed this company, Illuminata Pictures. I mean, you know, it's all about taking risks, which I really say to everybody, take those risks, because that's what I attribute my success to. Networking obviously is very important. Go to that party that you don't want to go to, that you don't know anybody, because you know what, you never know. Go to the, you know, you'll meet someone at the car wash, restaurants, wherever. A busboy ends up being in our movie because we really liked him and had a you know, great time talking with him. I mean, that's how it's been working for us. Also, you know, what the most fascinating and amazing thing about being in 3D was about 6 or 7 years ago, with all of us going to these meetings at big studios. 3D wasn't even on their lips. They didn't even talk about it, didn't want to talk about it. And to see where it is, I mean, it really hasn't even been a full 10 years that the studios have even been involved in 3D with live action or animation. But we happen to be working with one of the top 3 3D filmmakers in the world right now, and very privileged and thrilled to have that in our lives. So happy to be here.
Killer.
Not you.
Me? Okay. Well, I'm Paul Camp. I'm VP of Business Development and in-house counsel at Backbone Networks. A quick background on me: I started in the computer industry, working at Prime Computer, Sun Microsystems, and companies like that, where we helped move the internet from a small thing to a big thing. Now at Backbone Networks, we build internet radio broadcast and automation systems. That's how AER gets their word out. They're listed in iTunes, they're listed in TuneIn, very popular internet radio station, and we're looking for ways to help stations do more of that through promotion. And the big thing from our perspective is that monetization has changed in the radio space, where performers used to get $0 for performance rights on terrestrial radio. Now they get paid, and if you're following this, Pandora is not profitable, though they do produce a lot of money, and they've gone to Congress to ask for a change in.
Can you just speak up a little bit?
So they're asking for a change in how the rates are structured. So anyway, that's me. That's the space I live in. That's what we do, and I'll turn it over to Cameron.
My name is Cameron Manwaring. I'm the founder at Consulting Virality, and basically I'm the YouTube guy. It's the best title I guess I could come up with right now. I've been doing YouTube for a little over a year as far as being involved, but then in January, February, I was approached by a very popular YouTuber to be his manager. I started out doing management with him and kind of getting into all aspects of licensing and production and event creation and things like that. Then after kind of more focusing, I started doing stuff with more YouTubers. In the past 9 or so months, we've had about 100 million views for the various clients on YouTube. I've done stuff with companies, as far as startups and larger companies, to promote sales. Had sales growth of over 500% for some of them, just on product base. And then done a lot of stuff with YouTubers who just want to be exposed on YouTube. Then there's over 2,000 YouTubers right now that are YouTube partners making 6 digits. So it's actually a full-time job and a very lucrative one for many of them. And a couple of them are my clients. I also do stuff for just companies that want to get exposure. Nitro Circus, others. I've been in the works with doing stuff with Red Bull for the past couple months. Have a meeting with them here in LA on Monday, which is part of the reason I'm here. And then also have done some training for various film companies and other product companies. My wife and I just got back from Brazil a couple days ago. We spent 6 weeks down there doing training for various companies, both for products and also film production companies who are seeing this transition from radio, television, commercials into YouTube. And interesting enough, the top 10 most viewed videos on YouTube are music videos. And so there definitely is a market. You guys see that every single day, and most recently with Gangnam Style. And there's a lot of just really interesting things to learn from YouTube about monetization, both in kind of in the last session, those that you were there, about getting placed in YouTube videos for exposure, getting placed in YouTube videos for, you know, actually getting a percentage of monetization that Google pays, and then also just for getting out there for yourself. We have a couple artists right now that we manage as a YouTube consulting firm, and then we're actually kind of fun in the next couple weeks. We're going to be releasing a video, the first YouTube music video in space. So anyways, look out for that. It'll be kind of exciting. We've been working on it for a couple months. So
Awesome.
turn over to Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris Aiken. I play bass for a band called Strung Out. I originally started out playing guitar. I'm actually from Thousand Oaks originally. Started out playing guitar, then years on the road started playing bass, and I joined the band Strung Out. And recently I just had my own signature model bass come out from Fender, came out last month. And my band's been around for 20 years. I've been touring the world, been blessed to go around the world numerous times. And I'm also an actor too, working at acting now and stuff too. And definitely like what Mimi and Gina were saying too about risk. Risk is a huge thing for me. I love risk. Risk is when I feel the most alive, when I try something that when I'm very uncomfortable, I want to go there. I want to go there to something that's very uncomfortable, and that's where I feel alive, and that's where chance happens, like she's saying too, about going to that party you don't know anyone at. That's what it's all about, you know, and that's, to me, that's so huge, you know. And also in this industry with entertainment, like the more people you know, the better. And also being a nice person helps too, you know. But yeah, definitely, you know, I've had a very blessed career, and it's only beginning for me right now, and I'm very happy to be here. And Karamo.
Oh, perfect. Okay. How's everyone doing? Good. So my name is Karamo. I'm with MTV and VH1, the Icon family. I actually started a little differently into my broadcast journalism career. After college, I actually went the route of reality TV because it was quicker to go into broadcast through that way. One of the perks that we have with this generation, with like YouTube, is that we can sort of jump some of the steps if you have the talent, so you don't have to sort of work your way up so quickly. And so went on a reality show, used that exposure to parlay myself as a journalist, and started doing
What show?
what
Reality show?
Oh, The Real World. And then, and then use that to start hosting MTV Spring Break, to start hosting VH1 countdowns, and that just starts snowballing over and over again as people start to see that I had talent and that I could put together promotions. And one of the things that I would just suggest, as I'm sure we're going to talk about this more, is that just using, you know, the popular mediums we have today, YouTube. There's so many things that we have today that you can just catapult yourself to getting to where you want to be, as long as you have the talent. So you have to work hard and then use those mediums because it's worked for me. Yeah.
Okay, great. So the first question I thought I'd give to the panel is, how do you see monetization happening in your space, and what mechanisms do you see being used to enable, you know, revenue generation of artistic works? So, leave it.
Wow. You mean with our company specifically?
Your company specifically, or broadly, you know, if you see other things that you find out there that are interesting that may be happening.
Well, okay, that's a lot of answers to that.
You want me to, I mean, I
Yeah.
think I know what you asked.
Yeah,
I think I understand. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
What's really great about, thank you so much. Our movies are multi-platform, something
Right.
that what we do that the other studios don't do in working with N-Wave, this Brussels company. Not only do we make the 3D features that go out worldwide to theaters, we have 3D and 4D ride attractions.
the same
We'll
movie.
play, yeah, of the same movie, 3-minute, 14-minute, that kind of thing. We also have a 40-minute version that will play at California Science Center. The thing that separates us from our competitors is that we really have something to say on a social level. Our first film was about three flies at Stowaway and the Apollo 11 in 1969.
Who Gina came up with.
But it's it's something that was so great because Shrek was coming out that year. It was 2008, I believe, and unfortunately, quick story, AT&T was wanting to do a wonderful platform with their phones where I guess you go on your phone and the 3D little, I don't know what, a 3-minute
Right.
would come up, a trailer or something.
Yeah.
So it was either working with Shrek and DreamWorks or working with us. At the time, I think the 40th anniversary of the moon landing was going to happen. Long story short, AT&T ended up going with Shrek. Of course, I was devastated because I'm thinking, here's this amazing opportunity to share with everybody, this moment in history. At the time, all three astronauts were alive. It would have been brilliant. And my whole thing about it was to AT&T, would you want your kid to walk out of a theater saying, oh, I want to be an ogre or whatever, or wouldn't you want them to come out and say, I want to be an astronaut? And, and I was really bummed. For obvious reasons, it's business, I get it. DreamWorks is multi-billion dollars, and we're this little tiny fish in a very big pond. But those are the kinds of things that we deal with. But we work with composers. We get to see, if we've worked with Bruno Mars. We didn't get to work with Lady Gaga. She's seen a lot of our movies, but we almost had an opportunity before she became Lady Gaga, which was awesome.
So she actually gave us a piece to use, and it didn't work.
Right.
It was way too out there.
But we do
Not
work on
deep
so
enough.
many multi-platform
Really?
levels. So, we're very fortunate and, as Chris was saying, blessed. We truly are.
And we keep thinking out of the box. We keep thinking out
Yeah,
of the box.
definitely. But I don't know if that helps with monetizing. We
So
just
for
really...
each of those components that you built, you're able to bill AT&T and others
Well,
such
yeah,
that,
one movie makes, one movie is divided up so it keeps generating
Yep.
income.
It's got
That's
legs
how
a
this
lot
company
longer
started.
than a normal,
Okay.
a normal movie would be out maybe a few weeks, maybe a month,
Ours
6 weeks
keeps
if you're
going.
lucky. Yeah, ours can live up to 18 months on these different multi-level platforms.
And that's what this original company started from.
okay, so
Right-
that's
right
additional
ahead.
monetization above and beyond the
Yes,
movie.
yes.
And that's where
Thank
you
you.
fit
Thank
into
you,
the
Gina.
market.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
I think instantly what's really neat about the YouTube platform, and a lot with the internet, but especially YouTube, is that any artist can immediately create a channel. You can go on there today, sign in, make your YouTube channel. You can start putting up content within 1 hour, videos and things like that. And as long as it's copyright free, which if it's your own original creations, it is, you can actually start getting paid immediately from Google AdSense. Then if you start being a little more consistent and you apply for YouTube partnership and you're providing consistent content to a demographic or a niche market or in general, then you can actually up that monetization. And this is literally, they'll pay you anywhere from about 50 cents to $2 per 1,000 views. And then there's external companies that will pay you, anywhere from there up to $5, $6, or $7 at the very top per 1,000 views. So you're putting out a video with, 5 to 10 million views, you're getting at least $10,000. It's free. It's a platform you're putting out there, and if you have talent, and if you're able to focus it in a way that's going to be seen, then you're immediately getting paid. You're immediately getting monetized for what you're putting out there. And then on a more specific way as well, all of these YouTubers as well that aren't music artists, they are producing content that has to be, again, copyright free. And I talked about this a little bit in there, but they're always looking for music. Because if they put up a video, no matter how great it is, if they don't have permission to use the song that they use with it, then they don't get monetized. And so it's really important that both the video content, the logos, everything, and the music is, especially, you ever look on YouTube and it says, sorry, this video is no longer available. You're in another country, it says, sorry, you can't view this video in this country. It puts up a lot of roadblocks. And so another avenue for monetization for these music artists, besides doing it yourself, is also collaborating with people who are doing YouTube videos and offering your music to them to be able to use in their videos, whether you get a percentage of what they're getting paid or if they just simply put a link to your iTunes. And I mentioned, we've had artists where we put a link to their iTunes, their Facebook, their Twitter to be nicer, but link to their iTunes, and that one single song from our video within the first week makes $20, $30, $40,000 just off iTunes sales. So there's a lot of people out there in the YouTube market that are very needy for what an artist has, or especially a composer. If you can compose something specifically for that video, it's really valuable. And then, you know, the value of the video goes up because you have value behind good music, and it's going to get more views, and it means win-win for everyone. And so it's a very, very open market. It does take some persistence in getting to those YouTubers. You can contact almost any small YouTuber. The big ones, they already have these channels, so it takes someone like our company or other people that are affiliated with them to connect. But very simply put, you know, it is an open market, both if you're doing it for yourself or if you're trying to connect with other people. If you're trying to do it to kickstart your own band or just exposure at the moment, we've seen things with like, you know, somebody that I used to know and the 5 people on the guitar. It's not even the band, how do you even say it, Gotie, whatever. They aren't the ones that made that video and got the exposure, but Walk Off the Face of the Earth did that video, and now Gotie's up, you know what I mean? So there's ways you can collaborate to get that exposure and get that monetization. But.
Okay.
That's good.
So Chris, how are you generating revenue?
Exactly. How am I generating revenue? So it's funny because my band, we're on an independent label. We're not in a major label, so we don't have, you know, all these tons of money. We're not on, you know, we're not on MTV all the time. We're not on the radio. So when my band, when we don't tour, we don't exist. So when we tour, it's like how do we make money? And we have, you know, you have guarantees at each show you make money. And our main thing is honestly we have our own clothing company. I mean our band's Strung Out. You know, we sell our band's T-shirts. So every year we always have new designs that our singer does, and luckily our singer is an incredible artist. And so it's kind of the way we have our own clothing company. So that's kind of like our bread and butter, really, when we actually make money is selling clothes. You know, like our hats or shirts, sweatshirts, girl shorts, shirts, everything. And that's one thing that we have, you know, when we're touring, and we tour maybe 4 months out of the year, 5 months maybe. And other stuff we try to do is try to get our foot in the door with other, you know, opportunities with clothing companies, you know, like that sponsor us, and maybe, you know, we can do ads to them and stuff, or like watch companies. This company Reactor I just got hooked up with, and I'm doing ads to them now, and it you know, generates revenue. And like my Fender bass, like I'll be getting royalties on that, which is nice. That's actually really nice. But other things too, you gotta. It's really tough when you're like an independent band because you have to find other outlets. I mean, we've been lucky too. We have a song I got on Guitar Hero like 2 years ago, and of course it's like right when Guitar Hero was going down too. Now like it's all about like the Connect games and like workout games, but still, you know, we got money for that. It's good. So I mean, we're always kind of hustling in a way, you know, trying to make money somehow. And there's so many bands out there. So. But don't let that discourage you, because, you know, I'm fully all about, you know, dreaming big and always dreaming bigger, you know, and never let anything stop you. So you always got to to me, it's all about that passion. Like I always had that passion since I was 12 about going, I'm going to do something in entertainment. I know it. I'm going to play or something or act, and that's what's driven me everywhere. You know, I have to keep going. So to me, it's all about just following your passion, and I don't know. I mean, somehow you can make money. But, yeah, I'm pulling off somehow. I mean, I haven't worked a job in like 9 years now. I haven't worked a job, so I come home and I make it stretch, and I can pull it off. And I'll do some, you know, some commercials here, or like a voiceover thing, or, you know, do like a bass clinic. But yeah, you just hustle.
Do what's necessary. Karamo.
Yeah.
I say for me, one of the best things that you can do is I just want to keep on stressing perfecting your craft, because all the people up here, they all know their craft inside and out, myself included. And so it's great to network, to go to parties, to do any of these things, put yourself on YouTube. But when someone approaches you, if you don't know your craft inside and out, the door is going to be shut on you, and sometimes you don't get a second chance. The way that I monetize, or, you know, get myself out there, outside of being with MTV and them sending me out to do interviews or writing stories for them, would be there's a ton of, if any of you are in broadcast or want to go into broadcast journalism, there are a ton of you know, online websites that are starting up that have a little bit of money, And they're always looking for people to do their red carpets, to interview their celebrities, to write stories for them, to do videos for them, to send them content, because they need content constantly. So it's finding, you going on YouTube, looking at different ones and saying, hey, I see that you're lacking this. I can actually provide this for you. And if you pay me $100 a month, you're in high school right now, so that might be just a starting point, but then that could turn to $1,000 later, $2,000, $3,000. Outside of MTV, I constantly do red carpets for tons of different, little companies that send me out to things, and they'll pay me $2,000 to go and interview celebrities for them so that they can have the content. And then on top of that, if I need to edit the content that I have and produce a package for them, I can say, well, now that's an extra fee. So it's not always looking at the big companies, but also looking at the smaller things, smaller companies, and saying, how can I use these companies to get myself exposure and also to give them what they need and make myself some money. Another way is, I would say, associate yourself with brands that are in line with you, that are maybe already bigger or that are growing, and grow with them. Like you just said that you've attached yourself with this watch company. I'm sure that's great revenue. I do that myself. I have 2 specific markets that I'm able to work with, that anytime there's a product that comes out, I'm able to go in there and say, hey, I'm your guy. I have a name from being on MTV, so let's attach ourselves, and I get paid for that. But as the brand grows, they're going to constantly push me out and expose me, and so it's a win-win situation. So find brands. I know a lot of kids here have clothing companies that they're starting. If your friends have a clothing company, start with them. Say, hey, I'll be your spokesperson. I'll go out and do stuff for you, and that way, once you get out there, every time they do something, they're going to put your name out there as well. So it's a win-win situation. So that's the way it works for me.
Okay, so let me ask Chris a specific question. You just mentioned Guitar Hero as a way to monetize. Now, what I've heard, there's 2 different models for that. One is freely license your work into Guitar Hero and then generate revenue off of the iTunes, the Amazon sales, or direct license them and they pay you for the music within the
that's the difference.
within the
With
game.
Guitar Hero, they did that, the direct licensing, and they actually we had to give them like a brand new mix of the song where they took out the vocals and had someone else sing it, because they'll do that stuff. And they'll have like big bands like Metallica on there where it'll be like a different version, but it'll be their song. So they still have to pay them a lot of money, but
Right, and how did that actually come about? Did they approach you, or did you
we
find
have,
the right person
we
at
have a
Guitar
publicist
Hero?
for our
Okay.
label that kind of. It kind of got lucky where they were, they're always trying to get some kind of, work at some kind of asset for us, work something, and we just got, I got lucky.
It worked.
Yeah, it worked. It worked. So, but yeah, and it definitely generated like a lot of money for us at the time. So it's great. So it's always nice too when you're, like I said, a band like us. We're not pulling in all this money like every week, but it's nice when it's like, oh, cool, we just got a $14,000 check from Guitar Hero, like, yes, all right, it's like, woo, there goes rent, so it's nice, it's nice surprises, it's like, all right.
Well, so let me ask Mimi and Gina a similar question. You're monetizing content around different things, and how did you set up those relationships? How did you find that additional revenue and partnerships and people to talk to?
Well, it was, N-Wave pretty much had that established. They've sort of had the corner market now over a decade with
Ride attractions.
Yeah, the ride attractions. But one thing I wanted to say, and I don't mean to deviate, and just kind of adding to what has been discussed. It is all about staying relevant. It could end for Mimi and I next week. Thankfully, it's not. But we're also trying to create other things, live action projects that we have. Right now we're in an amazing position. We can make a phone call, we can get in a door, which years ago obviously we couldn't. And it's utilizing where we're at. And I think with all of us here, I know all of us have probably other things going on. I'm sure with Karamo, Chris, we've got other stuff, because it could end tomorrow for us. And you just have to keep going and have those things in your back pocket or have those side projects going. To me, it is all about relevance.
Well, I think also too, for us, we've been very lucky because we had contacts to talent. And where this Brussels company that was in the ride attraction primarily, they hooked up with us because we had the creative. They had a piece of we had the content that they wanted to do in animation. We also had, we were very fortunate because we have contacts to talent and celebrities that they did not have at all. So we entered this marriage, so to speak, with a lot on the table from us because they had no clue. And I say that because they're amazing in terms of what they do, but you can't do it alone. There's no way, it has to be a collaboration. That's how you're gonna monetize. You put it together. My motto always is say yes to everything. You don't ask, you don't get, because you'll figure it out later. We needed an astronaut for the first movie that we did. This is a perfect example on this note. And Gina came up with the idea. Dominic wrote the script. This was Fly Me to the Moon. We needed an astronaut. So the company that we work with said, can you get us an astronaut? Gina and I sat there and went, absolutely. We walked away and went, I'm sorry, what the, and WTF. And we started laughing. It was very exciting to us. And I went, we're going to find an astronaut. Sure enough, we found Buzz Aldrin. And we got to, believe me, we don't know astronauts up here, okay? That's not our field. But we needed one, and we started calling the people, again, networking. People from my past, people from Gina's past. We just got on the phone, and I said, okay, can anyone help us here? We need an astronaut. One of the people came through and said, wow, we have Buzz Aldrin. I said, good, could you get it for us? Can you get him? And sure enough, it happened, and that helped us monetize our project because his name meant something to us. So again, no clue, just got together, collaborated, thought out of the box, and we went, okay, in order for this movie to really get somewhere, we need distribution, we need to put names in it. And that's no different than putting a brand together, putting a YouTube thing together. It's just collaborating and keep going. And that's my biggest suggestion to all of you guys out there, and to us too.
So Cameron, you talked pretty specifically about how you monetize. In fact, you even gave 50 cents to $2 CPMs for the videos you produce. Yet, if only 1,000 people watch, there's no monetization.
Right.
So how do you get that broader distribution? What are some of the tricks that you use, or maybe not trick, but
we always get more than 1,000 views.
understood.
So, yeah, the average view count for one of my clients in the past 2 months has been about 500,000 views a day. So we get more, and the thing is, it depends on the client. Some of them, the lowest we've ever had in the past 9 months so far is about 15,000. So and the highest right now is about 15 million, and it's it grows every day. And that's another great thing is that maybe you get a video here with 1,000 views, you put out some other content that gets seen, and all of a sudden that one with 1,000 views goes up as well. So it's really nice. You can actually fail a couple times and end up making it work in the end. But what we do specifically to get more than 1,000 views or to get that exposure, very briefly, because then that could be all day of how do you get viral videos.
A high-level version of it, yeah.
But consumer-driven marketing, so why do you share content? If you think about that, when you're sharing something on your Facebook wall, you're sharing it to appear funny. You're sharing it to appear, and feel like you're smart. You share a TED Talk or something like that, and you go, oh, I want my friends to look at me like I'm smart and scholastic. And then, and you look at something you share because as emotion. How many of you guys saw the ghost in the elevator prank in Brazil? I mean, the emotion behind it, you're like scared out of your pants, but you're also laughing your face off. That video has over like 30 million views now in 5 days. So, you share something because you want there to be an emotion behind it. And so at the very base of it, what we do is we sit down with someone, whether it's a company, an individual, an artist, whoever they are, and we say, okay, what's your content? What's your branding? And then we go through every layer of how can this work with YouTube and what's trending and what's going on here. And it's not just about pop culture. It's not just about, is Justin Bieber wearing overalls to meet the Prime Minister today. You know, I mean, it's everything. And when it comes down to it, it's what are people going to share? And with music, that's really hard because you type in one song and how many covers come up? You know, how many people are doing it? So you really, every minute, in the past minute and a half, 2 minutes I've been speaking, 150 hours of YouTube videos were uploaded. And every day in 2011 is 103,000 hours a day. So by now it's probably about 160, 170,000 hours a day. So what's going to make your 2-minute, 3-minute song video rise above that 100,000 hours? So it takes a lot. That's why there's people like us out there, but it is possible. And you've seen people that have done it by accident. And then there's people that if you can at least, you know, virality is uncertain. If people say you can go out there and no matter what make a viral video, they're lying. But if you at least know the direction to go and you've maybe failed a few times and know which turns to take and which ones not to and so on and so forth, then there's a certain amount of predictability to that, and then it goes from there.
Okay. And Caramo, anything special that you've seen working at in reality TV and at MTV that actually enables you to monetize around those efforts, either, you know, personally, like you described earlier, or, you know, at MTV and reality TV?
I mean, it's just about, you know, everything that everyone shared. I don't want to start repeating.
Yeah, well, as I said, maybe around, as opposed to you doing the red carpet, you know, interviews and the additional discussions.
With regardless of whatever you're doing, you have to just make sure that you're connecting with people, and that you're not afraid to share who you are, what you're looking for, and get someone's contact information and stay in contact with them. I think Gina said it, that you have to network, or Mimi said it, I don't know which one.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, okay. You have to consistently network, you have to consistently get yourself out there. I mean, this is probably one of the best panels because you have everyone from YouTube to films to music to journalism that is going to tell you that you have to get out there and just sell yourself. Make sure you're constantly just telling people who you are, connecting with people. And you all live in such a great age, we all live in such a great age with Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, that you can constantly get yourself out there and you can put out content and connect with people. There's a time that if you wanted to work with a company or work with a celebrity, it would take you so long to connect with them. Now, if you have a Twitter account, you can tweet a celebrity if they're in China constantly, every day, in hopes that they'll follow you. You can do a direct message and get back with them. And once you do that, you can then promote the fact that you and this celebrity are in contact. It's one of the best things ever. I'm trying to find something different without repeating what everything we're saying, but I mean, I just would just keep on saying, attach yourself to brands, network, get out there, don't have any fears. I just did an event with Wiz Khalifa, and literally I don't have any interest of being a rapper. And after that event, we exchanged information and said, oh, let's work together. And so now it's this thing of, well, maybe am I gonna do something in rap? Or, you know, who knows what could happen. But it's one of those things where you just take it like Mimi and Gina said and just go with it and figure out what avenues are available for you so that you can start making money from them. But as you're going through all the different avenues, I'll stress again, know your talent and know your craft. Because I've seen many people who have come to me and said, I want to work with MTV, and I'm like, hey, I'll give you a shot to write an article, or I'll connect you with someone, and then they don't know how to write an article. They don't know how to do a pitch. They don't know how to do a tagline. They don't know how to do anything. And I'm saying, well, I can't give you the opportunity if you don't know your craft and you don't know what you're doing. Right. So make sure that when you're connecting, you're networking, you're associating yourself with different brands, and you're putting yourself out there, that you know what you're doing.
Okay. So why don't we ask the audience for a question or two? Go ahead.
So you guys always talk about knowing your craft. Well, I don't know if I really know my craft yet. I've been jumping around the last couple years. I used to be the video production guy, then I tried writing, and I'm now on the radio and a bunch of other things. Admittedly, I'm thinking about just dropping the show I'm doing and trying to podcast. I'm just running around trying different things. So my question is, how did you guys, discover your craft? How did you?
what do you love the most?
What do I love the
You
most?
gotta go with what
Yeah.
your gut is telling you, and start from there. Honestly, I know it's great you're all over the place, because that'll end up paying off for you.
Okay.
But you've got to start with what you love, what sources you. That's where I believe you've got to start, and then from there, you're happening. And hone it.
Yeah, I agree that being all over the place is not a bad thing, because
No,
all
it's a
those
good
skills
thing.
you're picking up
Good
are
thing.
going to come back and
Discover
help
what you love anyway.
But you have to figure out what you love, and you're still in high school, so you have some time for that.
Well,
But
I'm
you-
in junior college.
Oh, you're in junior
Doesn't
college,
matter.
excuse me, okay then, perfect.
Close.
Well, it doesn't matter, it doesn't
Close
matter.
enough.
But still, yeah, but still, you still have time that you can find what you love, but think about what makes you happy. What, when you're working on in your room at nighttime, you don't mind doing until 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning.
What's your
And
passion?
hone it.
Yeah.
And we're
You know.
still learning. I think
Yeah.
all of us here.
Totally,
I mean,
yeah.
we're never going to stop learning. I mean, that's what I love about it, and just learning about, the music, the composers, the music artists we've worked with, from the executives at the record labels. I mean, I learned so much, and to theater owners, I mean, you name it, it's great. I mean, and that's what I love, and the more the better.
Yeah,
I think-
absolutely.
I think
Then
one
hone
thing-
it. Then hone what you love.
I think one thing as well, when I was a kid, when I was young, you figure out things, and I always tell people, like, I'm a jack of all trades and a master of some. You kind of have to expand out and find all these different things. I've luckily been able to start narrowing a little bit more and more each day, but honestly, it's daily. Just 3 weeks ago, I had to put together a presentation for a shoe company in Brazil, and they wanted to do 5 videos minimum in the next 6 months promoting their shoe company through extreme sports. In 1 week, they said, okay, can we do a base jumping video in Norway? Can we do a highlining video in France? Can we do wake skating on the Amazon? And can we do the world's largest rope swing again? If you've seen that, that was our video. Can we do that in Utah? And I said, oh yeah, for sure. And within 1 week, I had contacts with the base jumpers and those and this and that. There's the production that she's saying they found the
Just say
astronaut.
yes.
And the thing is, you kind of spread yourself thin at first, and then start narrowing where you want to do. And then another thing is bringing other people on board. You're never going to go anywhere if you're just a one-man act. And now I have 7 employees. They're not all the highest paid employees in the world, but as things grow, it grows with that. And finding other people that you can do the creative side of things if that's what you want to do, and let someone do your accounting, because I hate accounting.
Right.
And if you want to be focusing on the marketing of something, find someone to do your design, so you're not sitting up on Photoshop or even Paint because you don't know how to do Photoshop. But finding other people around you, it's a lot better to have a small piece of a bigger pie than all the pie to yourself, and it's the most disgusting thing ever. So.
Carl, I have a question for you.
Sure.
I do recall you saying that certain people work their way up, starting at the bottom. There's some that work faster than others. Do you believe that some of the best people who are in television and like broadcasting started like at the very bottom and worked their way up, and I hear that there's some that start at the top without working their way up?
I think it varies, because we live in a different time. That I have some of my mentors who, I was talking to someone today that is a broadcast with the anchor for the news out here, and he gives me advice. In his time, he was not able to sort of make the jumps that I'm able to make, because he had to work himself as a reporter, then finally got his shot in a smaller market at the anchor desk, then went to a larger market where he was at the anchor desk, and he had to work these things. He had to send in big tapes with
Right.
for 3-4 minute reels on it, and so now I don't have to do that. So when I want to interview with someone, I will tweet them, and he didn't have to do these things. So I can't say that it's different, that if one's better or not. It's just the times are changing, and so you have to think about what path works best for you. For me, I knew that I didn't want to spend my time toiling, writing for small magazines or going to a smaller market. So I figured out that reality TV will give me exposure, and then I can use it. And so I figured out, what network do I want to work for? And at the time I was in college, I had just gone off of something where I went to spring break and I said, I want to host MTV Spring Break. And literally took the jump. A minute after I did that, did not talk about reality TV anymore. Only thing I highlighted to people was that I'm a journalist. And then immediately said, hey, I'll be a PA on your MTV Spring Break. And, you know, started doing that, and then immediately within, because when I was there, everyone knew my face. They said, hey, you want to grab a mic? I know you have background. I said, yep. And I grabbed a mic, and that was it. So, you know, it depends on what works best for you. Just, you know, figure out that.
Okay. In the back here.
Two things. One thing to the gentleman in the front. I made my living as a music journalist for years, and now I'm in Fox 11. But when you narrow that focus, I was a writer fresh out of college, and I knew I wanted to write about music. So how I got in is I figured out there's lots of writers, lots of people who want to write about music, but I found what they weren't doing. So at the LA Times, I became a columnist for 15 years because they weren't writing about nightclubs. So that became like my specialty, and I did the same thing at Fox 11. I found out what they weren't doing, and I supplied that. So you can distinguish yourself from the competition by looking at the place you want to be and saying, what aren't they doing, and what can I bring that's unique?
Yeah,
so I think
that's a
that's
great
something
thing.
anybody can
Right.
benefit from. The one thing I want to say about the strung out model that I think is so interesting to the people here is that so many bands that I've seen come out with one song, one hit, they ride that gravy train, they make their money, and they have no backup. They got nothing. And what's happened with bands like Strung Out is they build every year on their success and their fans, and they're so networked with their fans that 20 years in, they're having like their biggest year, next year bigger and bigger, because they've taken the long view and the long approach, and I think that's something that's amazing.
And they're looking at it like a business too,
Right.
almost,
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
all
I mean, because it
business.
truly is.
It's a
Right.
business.
It's a
And the
business,
fact is,
period.
I think that what separates people in this year, in this market, is the fact that it's DIY, do it yourself. The more you bring to the table that you do yourself, that you don't have to pay, like, you know, for example, the Sailor band creating the artwork, everybody kind of pitching in, and then everybody looks at that band and says, well, okay, you know, Chris just got his signature bass, you know, that's because they've got this cred they've built themselves, and so.
Well, in fact, I want to
That's really important.
comment a bit more on what Chris has done. There's a group called the Future Music Coalition. You can find them online. In fact, we just helped to broadcast their technology summit and policy summit about a month ago. But they did a survey of artists and composers and publishers about how they generate revenue, and I think they found 42 different revenue streams for music. And for anybody who wants to discover some of those things, it's on the Future of Music site. It might even be at futuremusic.org/money or something to that effect, but it's available.
I'm familiar with that study, and one of the sources of revenue that was cited that was fairly high up was grants. And the patronage model and crowdsourcing is becoming increasingly the way that things get monetized. And that's a very different approach because it's the nonprofit approach.
Talk about
versus-
kickstarting and stuff.
Yep.
like
Kickstarter.
Kickstarter. But I mean, Indiegogo is also rising, and then grant writing is a little bit different. That source of money is much more available to artists in other countries than in America, but it's out there. Particularly if you as a band, if you treat it as a small business, you can also treat it as a small nonprofit. If you're doing certain things, there are, like, in addition to making music, if you're offering services to the community, bands that have become more like art groups, and then they're 501(c)(3)s nonprofits, and then there's a lot of grant money available. I was wondering if you guys could talk about maybe the flip side of that, particularly for college radio stations that are often one-profit.
That's funny you say about the grant money, because I know that with Canada, they do that. The government will give bands money for touring and stuff, which is insane. I've never heard that. I'm like, really? Like, I know a bunch of Canadian bands the government will give them, here's like $5,000 for your tour, and it's not recoupable. It's like, that's incredible. They do that, and we don't do that. But I'd love it. We did. But that's the only thing I know about is the grants. Is Canadians do that. It's incredible.
The Juno Awards come with a huge cash prize.
Yeah, and it's like what a inspiring thing. Like, oh, the government just gave me $10,000 to go on tour. Like, let's do this. It's like the country's behind you. It's like it's killer.
I think also I've worked with a couple 501(c)(3)s, and with that, it's still a business. And so if you think of it, it is nonprofit, but for an artist or someone, you can get your music out there. for an event or for a nonprofit organization or something like that, where maybe you take a little bit less at the very beginning, but the exposure or something from that. What was that? The song, the Africa song? It's 5th most viewed on YouTube, like 500, 600 million views. That translates into so many sales on iTunes and all this other stuff. So looking out for organizations to just volunteer your music or however it is, yeah, a great model as well.
Right, and NPR Music is a big promotional vehicle. If you can find the right people at NPR, they've got a different deal with Sound Exchange for performance rights than some of the other organizations. Other questions?
Can I just say one thing that's really cool about our panel? Chris being a music artist, we theoretically could use Chris's music for our film. Cameron can put it on YouTube. Karamo could be interviewing both these two gentlemen.
Spice guy.
But it's like that's the beauty of the businesses that we're in.
Right.
It's just taking all these different facets and being together. Mimi and I have been networking today since we got here at 10, and it's great, and that's exciting for us. And that was something we talked about, was just the exciting aspect of the
Meeting
business
new
that
people.
we do. Yeah, absolutely.
So true.
Reinforce that on the talk show site. That's where I get my guests from. People are interesting and exciting.
Right.
I look for that all the time.
Yeah, so do we. Quirky, offbeat, out there. Hello.
Yeah.
As part of that, real quick, I don't know if it's when or where, but and it's networking with everyone. I think while maybe it's more of a pick and choose when you're starting out, but networking with everyone else as well. For anyone that was interested, my email, it's Cameron@consultingvirality.com, and if you shoot me an email and you have a purpose or a song or music or whatever it is, send it out. And I think that's with everyone here.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to reach out, even if it's that person up on the panel, up on the shelf, up wherever they are. And we've done some amazing projects with big companies. Red Bull, I sent them one of our videos and I said, if you don't like this video, you can punch me in the face. And I got
But you gotta find me first.
and I got a response back and made a friendship with them over the last 8 months. And now, I've had lunch with the guy who runs their global YouTube channel and doing the space jump skydive and all this stuff. And we're talking about doing stuff. Reach out and talk to people, network with people around you, so wherever they are.
Okay, any other questions?
Ask you to say your email again.
Cameron@consultingvirality.com. Virality.
Oh,
Virality.
Just a super quick one. What is somebody like the Psy Gong? I don't even know how to say it.
Psy.
Yeah, how do you say his name? Gong.
Psy. That's his name. Gangnam Style, yeah.
What did he make in the last 6 months?
Psy's made so much money. And the thing is with Psy, you're seeing some things change with the internet, with YouTube and music. There's no purpose behind that video. But a lot of people, they want to go to the internet almost to be numb. You know what I mean? They just want something. It doesn't have to have meaning. Psy, with Vivo or whoever it was, I think probably Vivo that did his music video. No, actually, it's on his original channel. It's on Psy Music, whatever. I've looked. On that, it's over $2 million just for the YouTube views alone. And then, you've seen all the appearances he's made and everything else. And with MC Hammer, I did stuff with a band who played with MC Hammer a few years back, and it's like, here's MC. All these different connections that he's made, whether it's TV shows or this or that, Psy's got it made. And just from touring, anyone seen the YouTube video of him in Korea playing for that college?
Yeah.
It's the most insane thing I've ever seen as far as a concert. That video? It was a pretty good production, but that one they probably spent about $100,000 or more.
Really?
But it was professional. But I've seen other ones that 5 people on a guitar. That was probably for about $50, So, yeah.
Okay.
They all had to have black shirts.
Okay, they'd given me the signal that we're about done. Any other final questions?
I was just gonna ask him really quick about YouTube. So basically, you can make revenue off YouTube, but you can also pay promotional companies to get views on your video. So it's
Yeah,
like,
there's some places, and it's funny, like, because of the exposure you get, there's one of my clients and stuff, there's law firms. Have you guys heard of the Piano Guys? They do stuff. They're based out of Utah, and there's a law firm that pays them $10,000 every video for putting their law firm link in the bottom and just saying sponsored by or this video funded by. It's so simple, and really they don't have to do anything but type in a URL, and it's because of the exposure that's happening. And there's a lot of YouTubers now that get approached, ourselves included, by bigger companies that want to do commercials. Commercials, it has to still be not seen as a commercial, but that are doing that. So yeah, there's a lot of collaboration now.
Okay, I think that's it. Yep.